everyone, happy full moon in Capricorn. The full moon was today, kind of right around noon. And this week I just want to keep the video kind of short and sweet. We'll see how well I do with that. I'm still feeling the energies of this past eclipse season, the Gemini one in particular. For me, it brought in a realization, a knowledge of this health issue that I've been dealing with for a long time, and I'm really grateful for that. So this week I'm still sitting with it and processing it, and giving thanks for the information and the realization, the knowledge, so that I can move forward with my new understanding and have it form new beliefs and new truths. And I'm sure I will share more about that going forward, but for now I want to talk a little bit about the full moon in Capricorn. So Capricorn is opposite Cancer. This is more like a typical full moon, unlike the eclipses that we just went through. So again, for full moons, for when we're not in an eclipse season, we do several things. We kind of look back 6 months before at what we were wanting to bring into our lives, especially around this archetype that we are discussing with the full moon. And we see how we've embraced and embodied this archetype, how it manifests within us, or where maybe we have blockages or discomforts with this archetype. And then we celebrate our successes with it, how we've embodied it, and how we've integrated it in a healthy way into ourselves, or live in a healthy way through it. We give thanks for the lessons that the archetype has taught us or brought into our lives. And then we work on releasing blocks, anything that might keep us from a healthy relationship with the archetype. So again, with the new moons, we have the sun and the moon in the same sign at the same degree. For the full moons, we have sun and moon opposite each other at the same degree, but in opposite signs. So the full moon is reflecting the light of the sun in the opposite sign along the axis. So this axis is about security and responsibility. The archetypes of this axis are of the mother and the father. In tarot, they're also considered sort of the emperor and the empress, although Cancer is more closely associated with the moon, but we will get into that in the next video. So Capricorn, being the emperor, is about authority. It's about rulership and leadership. It's about our inner strength in terms of discipline, in terms of commitment, in terms of inner authority, inner success, and achievement. And this full moon cycle is pretty fitting because more likely than not, even if you weren't already doing the set intentions with the new moon and then seeing how things have come to fruition in the full moon, this cycle starts with the new moon in Capricorn, which happens mid-December all the way through mid-January, so when we set our New Year's resolutions. So now is a great time to kind of look back and reflect on our resolutions, how we have achieved them so far, the practical steps we've taken towards working on them or achieving them, if we've been successful yet, or what that success means to us, how we define that success, and then how we want to move forward with it. What more do we want to do to achieve those goals? As the Capricorn full moon reflects the light of the Cancer sun, Cancer is about our emotional security. So Capricorn is security in our success and achievements and feeling fulfilled emotionally that way. Cancer is all about our emotional fulfillment. So they go hand in hand. It's hard to achieve and succeed outwardly if we don't inwardly feel secure. And when these two meet in the middle, we have personal responsibility. So the responsibility over ourselves, both over our emotional side, Cancer, and how we bring that out into the world, what we create, the structures we build, the discipline we work through, and the success that we achieve with Capricorn. So with this idea of personal responsibility, we, with this full moon, really take stock of how we are relating to ourselves and the outside world. Like what is that relationship in terms of how we take responsibility for what is ours, and then release responsibility from what is not. There's a quote that goes something like that. It's said, I think, typically as an invocation or a prayer, like may I take charge of what is mine, and may I release what is not, and may I have the wisdom to know the difference. So this is what the concept of personal responsibility that I feel the full moon in Capricorn is having us kind of take a look at right now. I think that this can span back to past traumas in our lives or past struggles, things that we are working through as we grow, but also could potentially bring up stuff from generational trauma, generational suffering, or karmic suffering. So things either generationally that are ingrained within our DNA, within our history personally, or karmic history. If you believe in past lives, maybe stuff that we accumulated from those past lives are coming to a fore now for us to sort of parse through and decide how we are responsible for it, and how we're going to take responsibility for our baggage, for our struggles, for healing. And this can be really difficult, especially when we talk about generational trauma or karmic patterns, because it's hard to take responsibility for the healing of suffering that wasn't specifically ours, but we feel it still in our bodies. It physically manifests within us. There's another quote that I love that says, we are not responsible for the first half of our lives, but we're responsible for the second. And this also embodies that sort of delicate balance where we can see and understand that when we were children, we weren't responsible for how we were raised, and we weren't responsible for the upbringing that creates the patterns of beliefs and behaviors that we live with now. But at the same time, as we move into adulthood, it's our turn, it's our responsibility to take responsibility for that upbringing that exists within ourselves. So while we weren't responsible for the habits or beliefs or even traumas that might have been instilled in us as a kid, it then becomes our responsibility at some point to take it on as our suffering and to find our own personal healing from it. And wherever we are on this journey is totally okay. It's absolutely fine and good and necessary. But the truth of healing is that at some point, if we are still blaming others for our suffering, blaming our upbringing, blaming the people who inflicted that suffering or that past trauma, then we never move into being able to heal it within ourselves. So this is not about shifting the blame from another who might have inflicted it towards ourselves for carrying it. It's simply about claiming responsibility for what is, finding that kind of radical acceptance and taking responsibility for ourselves, and then making those steps to heal things moving forward. And again, having kindness and gentleness and patience with the process and wherever we are along it. And in a smaller, more practical sense, this can look as simple as perhaps recognizing when we're angry and holding space for that. Maybe we can even recognize that we jump to anger because we were raised maybe in an environment that was very angry, and so that's our habit now. Being able to hold that emotion within ourselves, but then not acting from it. So understanding that whatever we feel is 100% valid and okay, but acting from it isn't necessarily so. And we take responsibility of ourselves that way. And that's the energy that I feel coming up with this full moon in Capricorn, with this inner authority and then inner security, this sense of security within ourselves. Because Capricorn is an earth sign, it's very practical and grounded. So this can also mean taking responsibility and feeling secure within our physical surroundings, within our home, within our jobs, within finances, within how we take in abundance. So the sense of inner responsibility is how I feel the full moon is manifesting for us. And then we can bring it back to our resolutions from the first of this year in the new moon season of Capricorn. How do we take responsibility for how we have or haven't achieved those resolutions yet? Maybe we want to say that things have been difficult, we've been working a lot, we've had other things going on that have kept us from achieving these goals. But in order to actually move forward and achieve them, the Capricorn moon, full moon, is asking us to recognize how we can take more responsibility and more authority over that process of achieving. So if we do feel like we're stuck in a rut with achieving our resolutions and our goals, how can we take more agency and control over that process? And of course, this moon, I feel, is asking us to take a pause. We are just coming off of the summer solstice and the full brightness of the sun, our vital life force, and I think that energy lends us to wanting to be vibrant, to be outward, to go out and adventure and enjoy life, and absolutely we should. But at the same time, the peak of the sun, as well as the fullness of the moon, are asking us to take just a little bit of a pause so that we can gather our resources, so we can draw on our inner strength and inner authority to really bring ourselves out into this world to shine our inner sunlight in the most efficient and practical and successful way. So before we go, I am just going to draw a quick card for us to think about this next week or so. Typically we have 3 days after the full moon to kind of harness the energy of the full or the new moon. So if you can't get to spending some alone time today to think about things and reflect on where we are with our resolutions, then tomorrow or the next day would be just fine. Got Manta Ray says presence. So I'm going to read from the book a little bit. The main message of Manta Ray is presence, and it says, your presence is the most powerful gift. Be here now. Although physically intimidating, we can see that this giant of the sea chooses to move through life using graceful, fluid movements with minimal impact on its environment. This beautiful creature commands such a powerful presence in the ocean and teaches us the importance of not judging a book by its cover. Emotions that we fear or have previously judged as bad emotions to feel are often the ones we really need to experience and gently move through in order to find our grace and inner peace. No emotion should be feared or categorized as negative. Sure, they can cause us to feel things that are uncomfortable, but Manta reminds us that nothing is truly all black or white. In fact, we find the perfect balance when we glide somewhere in the middle. The Manta Ray teaches us the importance of always moving forward and living in the moment, never allowing ourselves to truly stop and stagnate, and to use our energy wisely and consistently. They remind us to focus on finding the balance and inner harmony and really feeling into it, more than living on the extreme ends of the spectrum of anything and wanting to be somewhere else. So I think Manta Ray is here today to offer us some wisdom about how we can take responsibility for ourselves. And the main message that this card has is to feel into those emotions that might be really uncomfortable, because those are the ones that are asking for our attention. They're asking for our care and our belonging. We'll talk more about that next video. But they're also asking for us to claim responsibility over them. It's true that we can't control what we feel. We're not meant to change our feelings. We're meant to feel our feelings. But by taking responsibility over how we feel, and more importantly, how we react from those feelings and how we respond, that's when we move into presence with not only ourselves, but also into the strength and the power through which we can carry ourselves and create in this life. So just take some time to be present today, to be present with yourself and your emotions. Maybe thinking about your New Year's resolutions doesn't bring up the greatest feelings. Hopefully it does, but if not, then the manta ray is asking us to sit with those feelings, those uncomfortable feelings, maybe of failure, maybe of doubt or shame, and sitting with those and knowing that they're feelings, that we have authority over this life, that we have agency, that those feelings are okay, they're valid, and they're good because they show us where we are and where we want to be, and the disparity between the two. And then we can draw upon the Capricorn full moon to release any blocks that we have towards moving towards those emotions, or the success, the achievement that might give us the emotions that we want in a powerful and present kind of way. So thank you once again for joining me for a video. I will be back in 2 weeks for the new moon in Cancer, but I wish you the best of luck in doing a full moon reflection and maybe a little ceremony with the Capricorn energy and making solid plans for achieving those resolutions. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you next time.